Hey there. Sorry here. Sorry I wasn't able to get to this sooner. It's been a rather busy week, but I wanted to get this out there before before maintenance. At this point, I almost should just like wait until Clash of Wills actually starts. But I'll be busy actually doing clears and stuff, and we'll actually see what's what tomorrow. But anyways, let's do another little preparing for Clash of Wills video. So I've done 2 of these, for the last couple of Clash of Wills, and I'm going to try and keep up with it as best as I can. So this one is the Wolf of Unknown Origin, Beowolf. You can see that the sprite is quite different in the news video from the one that we saw in the live stream. Typically, the one in the live stream is like the early stage sprite, and then when you reach like echelon 5, the sprite typically changes. This is probably the echelon 5 sprite. Again, the sprite artists are amazing. I think they do a really good job. I love the laser beam on the back. It reminds me of Austin Powers. I'm thinking like sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads. So yeah, I'll be saying wolves with freaking laser beams on their heads for the next 2 weeks. But anyways, Beowolf is the first 3 race boss that we've had in a Clash of Wills, and I'd say that this is probably going to be a new trend. We should probably expect triple race bosses going forward. It's an interesting way to sort of increase the difficulty level a notch, considering that we have we have leader skills now. Leader skills make units extremely powerful. And so this is just something, one way to sort of turn the dial up on the difficulty level. Now, with that being said, these 3 races are probably the easiest to gear for because we have multiple sources of 100% killers to all 3 of these, Machine, Beast, and Demon. And I'll go over some of those later when I talk about the team and the gear and like how I gear my teams and units and things. So this is kind of a nice introduction to a triple race boss just because of the ease of gearing for these. But also keep in mind that like premium units are going to be really handy here as long as you have them at EX2 so that they get that Omni Killer passive. Because most premium units at EX2 have like 200% to all killers, making them very easy to gear. So premium units will definitely, for obvious reasons, Gumi wants to sell their premium units. So there you go. Really, really good way to make us pull for those premiums, right? But anyways, moving on, the weakness is lightning. Lightning looks like it's going to be the primary weakness, meaning it will have an innate 40% weakness to lightning. That's what it's typically been. And then the fire and dark will be an innate 15% weakness to those 2 elements, with all the other elements typically being at 80% resistance. All right, so you definitely want to pick one of those 3, lightning being the best. Typically, it seems like in the last few Clash of Wills, if you go with the main weakness, you don't necessarily need an Imperil field. And then if you go with one of the weaker elements, an Imperil field usually really helps you ramp up your damage. Now, in this case, the boss will do something that might actually, almost necessitate an Imperil field or some type of field. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So as for the sort of the hints on the boss's AI, of course, anything that I sort of, any sort of supposition that I give or speculation I give here, all that can of course change when we actually get the AI tomorrow. But it says it uses non-elemental physical and magic attacks, and then uses fire, lightning, and dark physical attacks that inflict status ailments. And so, there are a couple of ways you can read this. My hope is that this fight will lean more towards like a needing a physical tank. However, seeing that there are non-elemental magic attacks, depending on the strength and number of those magic attacks, it may require a magic tank, and then you'll use, Mirage, or you'll use mitigations and elemental mitigations for the physical attacks. And so it could be something similar to Nobunaga, who did a lot of non-elemental magic damage, and then there was like the one turn where he did some physicals with some elemental physicals. We could see something very similar to that. Now, seeing that giant cannon on the back of the wolf leads me to believe that, there might be a big AoE magic attack. So yeah, you might need a magic tank, unless it's like fixed damage, in which case you'll want an Omni tank, right? And so just some things to think about. I'd say it could go either way, but seeing non-elemental magic attacks makes me believe you might want a magic tank or a strong Omni tank over a physical tank here. But we'll see. In my mind, I'm immediately thinking Esther, because it's a machine demon. She's got a lot of good physical mitigations there to those bosses, and she can be built up as a pretty decent Omni tank. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Reduces the party's accuracy. So this is going to be something of a new thing. We have a lot of these new dual wield units with the 8x chain cap. You've got Dwayne, you've got Flaring Ether Rain, we've got the upcoming Nora unit, who is almost certainly a TDW mage with the 8x chain cap. It would be silly not to give her that. And the thing about dual wield units is they don't have any kind of innate accuracy like double hand units do. So double hand units typically, just based on the gear that you give them to cap their TDH, that gear typically comes with some additional accuracy. In the past, that has been to combat enemies that have innate evasion, right? So if a boss has 100% evasion, but you have 100% accuracy on your TDH units, they will still hit a boss with 100% evasion, right? And so TDW units were at a disadvantage of that in those cases. In this case, the boss is actually going to reduce our accuracy. Now, TDW units are going to be affected no matter what, no matter how strong that accuracy reduction is. So if you're bringing dual wield units, you better plan to have somebody on your party that can increase the party's accuracy. All right, I'll go over some of those units later on, but just right off the top of my head, you've got Chizuru, you've got Sylvie, you've got Esther, you've got Roberta. All right, so those are some units that can increase your accuracy. Now, TDH units, double hand units, will probably not be affected by this unless that accuracy reduction is stronger than 100%. Because if the boss has a 100% accuracy reduction and your your double hand unit has 100% accuracy from gear and their two-handed weapons and whatnot, they'll still hit the boss no matter what. Okay, double hand units, if it's a 100% accuracy reduction, and your dual wield units, they will need a 100% accuracy buff to guarantee a hit on the boss, right? If the boss does like a stronger reduction, say 150%, then even your double hand units are going to start being affected. So a 150% accuracy reduction on a double hand unit means your double hand unit is going to miss 50% of the time, unless you've geared them for 150% accuracy, right? And so these are some things to keep in mind, right? We're going to see what the boss does. Maybe it's only a 50% accuracy reduction, which would be great, because then units like Esther and Roberta would be enough, because their buffs are only 50% accuracy, right? If it's 100%, you're going to need units like Sylvie, Chizuru. Probably the new Nora unit will have an accuracy buff for the party. All right, so those are some things to keep in mind. And then obviously he's going to have some elemental imperils for the party. That's pretty typical. So the next point is an interesting one. The boss is going to activate an area effect that boosts its own parameters. So what this means is you are going to need your own field, all right, to basically overwrite the enemy's field. And so you're either going to need a field effect that affects both sides at the same time, like Esther's LB field, which hits both sides. That would erase the boss's field, or you would need to use an enemy side only field like an Imperil field, like from Sakura or Summoner Lina or Tsukiko, right? So you'll want to have some type of field to overwrite the boss's field. And whether or not the boss puts up this field more than once during the fight is going to dictate what kind of field you're going to need, right? Because remember, Tsukiko can only do hers once per battle. So if the boss just puts up the field at the beginning of the battle and never does it again, then Tsukiko might be fine, all right? But if the boss puts up that field more than once, you're going to need to have units like Esther or Sakura or Lena who can put up their fields on demand, essentially, all right, whenever you need them. So do keep that in mind. Also, the upcoming Nora unit will have Imperil fields in her kit, I believe to lightning and fire. And so she will obviously be able to help you out in that regard with her own Imperil fields. All right. The last thing, reduces party's parameters if not dealt fire, lightning, or dark damage. That's pretty typical kind of counter for not hitting the boss's weakness. You can almost ignore those because you're almost always going to be hitting the boss's weakness. So yeah, and you can even get away with like one turn of not hitting the boss's weakness. It says you have to do it for 2 consecutive turns. So yeah, that'll almost never happen. Like you almost never see that. Just because you're always going for one of the boss's weaknesses. All right, and that's pretty much all the supposition I'll give on this boss. We'll wait and see what it does tomorrow. All right, the morale buffing skill that we get, so like sort of the new skill up there at the top of the morale bar that you can use is Infallible Will, which of course boosts accuracy of physical attacks for all allies. And boosting accuracy also gives your party some extra morale. So keep that in mind, all right? I think the only other thing I wanted to talk about here was the upgrades to the rings. So we got sort of the second batch of ring upgrades. And I'll come down here. So the Archon's Signet gets the plus upgrade. And so just some better stat buffs, so attack, defense, mag, spirit by 100%, 3,000 static HP. So that one's sort of geared towards, I guess it's probably better for tanks. It does give some HP and MP. That one's probably better for tanks with that static HP. Not sure that I'd recommend it though. Flag bearers is nice if you really struggle with building morale in a fight. This can be a really good ring. I'm not sure how much of an upgrade we're going to get on the morale fill based on number of active allies. I would assume that that's going to get a little bit of an upgrade, but we'll just have to wait and see. The Hermit's ring is I don't know, it gets a little flat stats. Jump damage, who uses Dragoons really these days? LB damage by 100%, that's nice because for some people that might be hard to hit that LB damage passive, so that really helps. And then parameters of Espers, basically evocation damage. I guess it could be useful if you really need it for an evoker, but really the only evoker worth using in Clash of Wills is Tsukiko, and she, if you use Tsukiko a lot and you need that, but Tsukiko really hits a lot of those passives pretty well already, so I don't know if I'd recommend that one either. Now the Craftsmen's and the Mediums, similar to last month, these could actually be very, very useful depending on what killers you have available. These rings, once they get their upgrade, they give 100% killers to 3 races. So in the case of Craftsman's, it's humans, machine, and stone. I'm not sure I would recommend that one just because there are a lot of great innate sources of human, machine, and stone killer already in the game. So that one's not quite as good. But the mediums ring, that one could actually be worth it considering 100% to demons, which is very common, but fairies and reapers, not as common. So I don't know. The medium's ring actually looks fairly good for the killers, but that's really only if you're kind of like struggling with killers in this game. Might be better for like newer players who just have, struggle with killers in general. And keep in mind that we may start seeing these triple race bosses, you know, from here on out in Clash of Wills. And if, you know, if one of the bosses in the future has the 3 killers that match any of these rings, I mean, that's like a best in slot in that case, because yeah, I mean, you're hitting 100% to all the bosses races in one slot. That's pretty amazing. So keep your eyes on these rings, the ones with the killers, because they could be very, very useful in future Clash battles. All right, so I think that pretty much wraps up the basic intro synopsis on what to expect. So now let's take a look at some of the teams that I put together and some of the units that might be useful for this upcoming Clash of Wills. So I'm going to scroll on down. Again, if you didn't realize you could do this, you can go into Clash of Wills even when it's not active, and you can still play around with and manage your parties, right? So you see it still says the moon, not available, but you can still go in, no problem, play around with parties and have some fun. Yep. All right. So the team that you see right here is actually sort of my initial rank 1 team that I have in mind. This can obviously change depending on what the boss actually ends up doing. If it ends up doing a crap ton of like magic damage, like really strong magic damage, Esther's obviously going to have to come out, and I'm going to have to put like Abigail or someone in there. Okay, but this is the team that I just have in mind, just to give a first go at a rank 1 clear, and we'll kind of see how that works out. But the idea is that I wanted to make sure I had all my bases covered for this fight, and so these units are here obviously for very, very specific reasons. Obviously Sylvie is here because she's just an all-around great support unit. This is going to be a lightning team, although it's going to kind of mix a little bit of lightning and fire, obviously with Rain and Genesis in the party. Okay, but we are going to do some lightning damage, obviously, with Sylvie bringing her 100% lightning amps. And then, yeah, we've got Chizuru is going to be in there for the beast killers for the party. All right, we've got Sylvie in there for the demon killers, and we've also got Kaito, who's bringing demon and machine killers to the party. Okay, and so excuse me. And so all these units are sort of here for a couple different reasons. Sylvie will also be able to provide a 100% accuracy buff for my Flaring Ether Rain, okay, because he's pretty vital to this one, because he's providing the big leader skill. Also, he's an incredibly strong unit in general, has a lot of great support skills now for Clash of Wills, and so he will definitely be important and key to this fight. All right, but Sylvie's going to basically be our support unit, keeping Esther alive. Esther will be, you know, either physical tanking, and then we'll be relying on Sylvie's mitigations to sort of face tank the magic damage, or Esther will be in there omni tanking. Okay, and then yeah, Kaito will just be our typical support unit. He's like the Swiss Army knife for Clash of Wills, just an amazing unit in general for Clash of Wills, also supplying the big breaks. And then we've got Genesis. So my Genesis is only EX1. I will not be able to get him to EX2 before Clash of Wills ends, unless I get stupidly lucky in the shard dungeon. Actually, even then, even if I got, I'd have to get like 3 shards every day, I think, to get him EX2 before Clash of Wills ends. But luckily I have all my other units EX3, so I'll still be able to get the full 16 EX levels, even with an EX1 Genesis. And the hope is that he will be strong enough, you know, with the Dazzling Demoness card, that he can still dish out enough damage to make it worth it to bring him to Clash. We'll find out. He may honestly be one of the first units to get swapped out. Not really sure. We'll just have to see how we go there. Esther's obviously going to be using her LB to get rid of the boss's field. Okay, and you know, all the other units are TDH. Genesis, being a mage, doesn't even have to worry about accuracy. So Rain will be the only one that has to worry about that accuracy debuff, but that's why we have Sylvie. We also have Chizuru, just in case we need another form of 100% accuracy buff. All right, and I'll go over just real quick some of the abilities that help you out here. So in Sylvie's case, her ability Paladin's Offense does, not only does it do the 350 attack mag buff, 200% LB damage, but 100% physical accuracy boost to all allies for 5 turns. That basically has full uptime. So, you know, as soon as it expires, Paladin's Offense is ready to be cast again. You maintain that physical accuracy buff, and it is 100%. So unless the boss does like 150% accuracy debuff, we should be good to go. Okay, and then obviously Sylvie is really great for her lightning ramp, which we can use twice, and that ramps up to 100% for the party. Okay, she also has the 250% demon killer to a single target. That will be going to Genesis, of course, but then it also does 150% to the party for 5 turns. Okay, so that's another reason why she is really great for this fight. My Esther. So I did gear her for some damage. You know, I figured on the burst turn, or maybe to like finish the fight, you know, she can dish out a little bit of damage here. So we've got, you know, a decent spread of killers. So just demon killer, valued memories for beast and machine, soaring legendary dragon. This one's limited, but if you have, you know, a flammy STMR, don't forget that it has 75% beast killer on it. Okay. And then, yeah, I gave her a power cut because, you know, she's going to be with the thought that she might be doing some omni tanking for the party here. All right, don't forget valued memories is fantastic. This is Irvine's STMR, 100% beast and machine killer. So, you know, if you, hopefully you've got a bunch of these lying around, definitely go UOC your Irvines if you don't have any of these, and grab a couple of these STMRs. Fantastic for this fight. And as you can see, it also does adds 25% accuracy. So you see there's an example of, you know, double hand units getting some added accuracy from their gear. Okay, so that's very nice right there. All right, Esther's also wearing this Spirit Tiger mask. This is Rain Warrior's Prayer. This was like the special units, the Warrior's Prayer units from last year. And this accessory, if you're wielding a greatsword or katana, you get 75% beast killer. So that's really nice. Okay. Notice this one, even though it gives some TDH, it does not add any accuracy though. So keep that in mind. All right. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for Esther's gear in that form. In her Brave Shift form, again, this can all very, very easily change, but here's just a quick idea of what I'm giving her to sort of bulk her up. You want to make sure you've got fire and dark resist. She will absorb all the lightning damage, depending on how much the boss throws at us. So really just fire and dark are the only ones you need to worry about. And then, yeah, just a general bulk card for her to tank or omni tank. All right. All right. So Chizuru in her normal form, you know, definitely want to give her a fair bit of damage, because I'm not sure, you know, how much she's going to need to do if the boss is doing a lot of healing below 50% threshold or something like that. We may need her to do some damage in her normal form. Typical type is the Spirit. Here's are some more examples of some killer materials like Force Mysterion. This one's great. Get it from Lunera. 100% demon killer. You can get as many of these as you want with UOCs if you don't have her lying around. Black Submarine was a limited one from the original Armory, the Armory tickets, but this one's got 75% demon and machine killer on it. Very, very nice for this fight. All right, so if you happen to have this one, don't forget about that. And then I gave her a cool smile, mostly because we're probably going to do our big damage burst within the first 5 turns, but don't forget, this also comes with 100% machine killer. So if you have this one, I know it's limited, but if you have it, very nice for that machine killer on there. All right, because it's kind of hard to gear this unit for anything other than beast killer, because she's got a lot of innate beast. But you can see we're not even capping all 3 races here. All right, now keep in mind this is her normal form. In her Brave Shift form, all right, we are going a little bit, we can take out that Typhus's spirit to add another materia, for example. Mechanic for the royal family. This is Cindy's STMR, so another 5-star unit. You can UOC, pick up this STMR. Great one to have for 100% machine killer. And keep in mind it's physical and magic, so if you have mages, this is a great one for them as well. Okay, so in her Brave Shift form, she's 275, 250, 275. So a bit better spread on that one, but still not capping all three of them. It's not easy to do, okay, unless you've got a premium unit. All right, or a unit that just happens to have those, racial affinities, okay? All right, so my Rain in his normal form, all right, just geared him for all-out damage, of course. He doesn't need too much in the form of killers, so he's got Ifrit Esper, so that finishes that, that caps up his beast killer right away. Anti-armor tactics is Call's it's his TMR. All right, and Call is a Neovision unit from Season 4. So if you happen to have one of him, all right, you can grab his TMR, boom, 100% machine killer, too easy. And he's got another Force Mysterion, which we just talked about, for 100% demon killer. All right, I gave him my love Chocobos because don't forget the boss is going to throw status ailments at us, okay? So keep that in mind. You want to make sure the units are status immune, or bring someone that can buff status immunity. Obviously, he's got his own vision card because that's the strongest one for him. He should be capped on everything. And yeah, as you can see, I put the killer break, the killer limit breaks on my Flaring Ether Rain for Beast Killer, so that's why he's got the extra 50% there on the Beast. And then 300 Demon, 300 Machine. Easy enough to do with premium units, right? Basically the exact same build in his Brave Shift form, all right? He should be able to dish out significant damage in both forms thanks to Pulverizing Force, all right, which gets the nice Clash of Wills buff. Yep, there it is. All right, so Strength of Will, I believe it is. It buffs his Brave Shifted Limit Burst, and it buffs Pulverizing Force. It makes it like a 3750 times modifier, which is quite strong, and that's on demand. Triple cast Bolting Strike, non-elemental, so you can imbue it with whatever element you want. That might actually end up being the better way to go on the burst turn. So that we're not mixing elements, but we'll wait and see, because he's got the 150 fire ramp. So I'll probably still use his Brave Shifted LB on the burst turn, but for finishing out the fight, that that Pulverizing Force will definitely come in handy. All right. As for my Genesis, so yeah, as much MP and mag as I could stuff in him. Prophet's Diadem of Will is great for Genesis because it provides a lot of static MP and a lot of passive MP, okay? He's got his coat, Magister's Ring for the chain cap boost, because he does need one form of chain cap boost. His sword is really great because it comes with machine killers on it, all right? And that frees up a slot in here to make sure you cap up his killers. And remember, he needs magic killers, not physical killers. He's not a physical mage, he is a pure mage. So make sure that you you're using magic killers for him. So like King of Beasts, I know this one's limited from Marquise de Leon, but I just wanted to show it in case you might have forgotten. Oh yeah, we've got that guy over there. Maybe I'll grab that STMR because maybe you never did. All right, this was from like years ago, so you may not have this, but it does have 50% physical and magic beast killer on it. Crucifying Coercion, this one is from the Scorn of Azura trial, and it's 100% demon killer, physical and magic, with a little bit of extra passive mag on it, so that's really, really handy. And then, yeah, Cool Beauty's just there for the 50% MP, Seer of the Future to cap up his TDH, and then obviously Dazzling Demoness for the MP. Unfortunately, Dazzling Demoness killers do not match, but they do have some rare killers on them, so this might come in handy in the future with the aquatic and insect killer. All right, and yeah, that's pretty much all he needs. He's just a big stick, right? He's just a big stick that we hit the boss with. He's literally here to do his one little trick and hopefully, you know, do enough damage to help us hit that damage cap. All right. And that's all he does. I'll show you his killers. He's actually fairly easy to gear for this fight, just with a few little killer materia. So he's got 300 Beast, 300 Demon, 300 Machine. Make sure you're looking at the magic column for him, okay? So he's actually able to hit those 3 races fairly easily. He's got a good spread of innate killers there. All right, Kaito, you can see I didn't even finish building him. That's because he's mainly just here for support, where he's not really here for damage, especially not in his normal form. And so, yeah, I didn't even really finish gearing him in his normal form. I'll have to do that. Lone Swordsman, however, is a great card in general because it has 100% Beast Killer on it, so don't forget about that one. Okay, I know it's limited, but if you have it, that's great for this fight with the Beast Killers on it. In his Brave Shift, all right, so I did actually build his Brave Shift for him, that's good. And his Brave Shift, which is at, you know, where he's going to actually do some damage. I gave him a Gal's Cape. So Gal, if you remember, is the 3-star unit who got an NVA. And his STMR has 75% Beast Killer on it. All right, and it's got a decent attack stat, 50, you know, 50 static attack. That's not too, or 50 flat. That's not too bad. And so it's definitely, you know, worth it if you're struggling to cap your Beast Killer. That one's definitely worth it to throw that one on there. And that's a very easily acquired STMR that you can spread around to your team. You notice I've got red hellebore on him. That's in anticipation for the buff that it's going to get. So after maintenance, red hellebore will actually get a buff to its flat stats. It'll actually be 80 attack and 80 mag instead of 60. So keep that in mind. That'll be really great because Kaito can't equip helms. So normally I would put like equip helm on him and put a helmet on him, but red hellebore will actually be quite nice for him when that gets upgraded. And then, yeah, standard killers, again, valued memories. I've got a ton of those because they're fantastic. And then just a standard beast killer. And I think he's pretty well, yeah, because he hits demon and machine pretty easily. He is missing 50 demon. I'll see if I can fix that. But yeah, 300 beast, 250 demon, 300 machine. He is, of course, here for a lot of his morale skills. Of course, he's got, you know, his sort of niche abilities where he can roll back buffs and things like that. You know, he's a fantastic breaker, but he is really useful for this skill, which does a 200% killer to all these races, both magic and physical. And so a 200% to demon and machine for the whole party, including a magic killer. All right, that's fantastic. It also does an accuracy debuff to the boss, which, you know, may come in handy for the physical damage. But a lot of times the bosses usually come with, you know, their physical attacks typically come with accuracy on them. So that's not as important anymore. All right, but Kaito's just got so much going on for this fight, of course, with the breaks and the support and everything. So I think he's going to be really, really useful for this fight. All right. He also, in his normal form, do keep in mind, now, you know, I'm bringing Esther, and she has her own physical mitigations. But if you needed it, all right, Kaito does have physical mitigations to machine, all right, and to demon at 55%, and that's pretty nice. All right, so definitely keep that in mind if you're not bringing, you know, if you're bringing a magic tank and you might need some physical mitigation for the party for the physical attacks, keep those things in mind for sure. All right, and so yeah, that's my rank 1 team, just trying to cover all the bases that I think are going to be important for the upcoming Clash of Wills. Next I'll load up my first turn kill team. All right, and this is the team that I'm hoping will be able to allow me to just climb up the ladder quickly, get to level 99, and just knock it out on the first turn. Of course, it depends on if the boss puts up, you know, huge mitigations. We haven't seen that in a while. A lot of the bosses recently have been, you know, have been first turn killable, and so I'm not expecting the boss to put up like a huge mitigation preemptively. But if it does, this team will obviously change. So in this case, again, we're trying to cover all the bases. So obviously our DPS units are going to be Rain, Rain, Reagan, and Genesis, and just hoping that Genesis can just basically nuke this thing from orbit. Obviously, this will be a fire team, and so, you know, with the anticipation that the boss will preemptively put up his stat buff field and will do the accuracy debuff on the party. That's why I've got Tsukiko. Tsukiko will do the fire imperil field to get rid of the boss's field. She'll also imbue and amp fire for the party. Okay, all in the same turn. Sylvie will then be there to buff the party's attack and mag and do the 100% accuracy buff, which will be important for Rain and for Reagan, right? And then she'll also do the demon killer buff to Genesis. All right, I don't have any form of machine killer buff on the party. I'm hoping just having the demon killer buff from Sylvie and then the beast killer buff from Axstar. So Axstar on his LB, this only works if he's EX2 because you need his LB up on turn 1 to do the breaks. So he's got the 87% breaks. We don't care about the Imperil, but he also does the 140% Beast Killer buff to the party there. And so by having that on turn 1, we get the breaks and the Beast Killer buff. So we'll have Beast and Demon Killer. Hopefully that's enough for me to get this done on the first turn and just knock this guy out. All right. As far as the gearing for these units, I won't cover Tsukiko and Sylvie because they're literally just here as support. But for Reagan, Mask of Azura is good because it has 50% Demon Killer. So there's a source of Demon Killer for you. Reagan's Cloak, this was the new one that got upgraded. That upgradable ability that we got in the sort of weekly trial event that's going on this week. Make sure you upgrade it if you plan on using your Dark Lineage Reagan, because it does give him, if it'll show me, all right, it does a dual wheel boost, that's fine, but it also gives him 500 static attack, and yes, that does work on Reagan Dark Lineage, or at least it should. All right, you got to upgrade that to +2 to get that, so make sure you've done that if you plan on using Reagan. And then, yeah, here's, we've seen a lot of these killers before, like Mechanic for the Royal Family. That's Cindy's, King of Beasts. Okay. He's fairly easy to hit on the killers as well. He's got a pretty good spread of killers. So, yeah, just with a few pieces of gear and materia, he's got 300 to all those races ready to go. All right. Axstar, didn't bother to gear him. Genesis, pretty much the exact same build that I showed you before, except I threw in Barbaricia's Spirit as just a different form of magic killer for Beast. So this one provides 50% magic Beast killer, as well as the other 3 killers, Avian, Human, and Stone. So keep this one in mind for the future as well. This is a nice one for mages, for pure mages. You can't use this on physical units or physical mages. It has to be pure mages, all right, because they're all magic killers. But it's an important one to keep in mind because it's got 4 killers on it, so definitely don't let this one slide, all right? And this is Babs's TMR, so it should be very easy to get a bunch of these. All right. And then, yeah, Rain, pretty much exactly what I showed you before. I think this was Calls, yeah. So I showed you that one already. So nothing too fancy going on there. Oh, I need to put his vision card in there. So this is an old build. All right, but again, he's maxed on all the killers and everything. Just got to swap his own vision card in there, and he'll be ready to go. All right, so that team, very, very, hopefully should be very, very simple. Just walk through and nuke it on turn 1. I'm hoping. We'll see, right? We'll see what happens. As for like a potential budget team, so I have an idea of a budget team I'll probably try, because I always like to do some budget clears as well before I start working on rank 1. It's helpful for a lot of folks out there. It's also sort of helps me learn what the boss is doing, so that I can then prepare to go in with my rank 1 team, and I know what to account for. All right, and so this is kind of a budget team just to clear the boss up to level 99 with no mods or anything like that. I figured Tyvis would be a good one to bring into here, and you could bring Runda along with him, because Runda can buff him up significantly. And then, you know, you've got Reagan, the free Reagan. He's just great for damage in general. Reno is really fantastic for the breaks and for the big lightning imperil. And then we've got Sylvie, obviously providing the lightning amps. Even though Tyvus is locked to fire, it's still worth it to use Sylvie's amps on Tyvus. It will definitely allow him to do more damage. And then you see Ling there. Ling is really great because she provides beast killers and machine killers for the party. So this team has all 3 killers lined up and ready to go. Between Ling and Sylvie, we've got our machine, our beast, and our demon killers ready to go. The only thing that might change in this party is if the boss does you know, a ton of strong non-elemental magic attacks. Might end up needing to take Runda out and put, you know, a magic tank in there like Beatrix or something like that. So yeah, I mean, again, this is all just things I've kind of prepared in advance. Everything will probably change when we actually get in there and see what the boss does. As far as a no leader skills clear, so I was able to do a rank 1 clear last time with no leader skill, and I think I'm going to try it again. It's pretty much this exact same team that you see right here, and so I'm going to try this team again if I think I can get away with it. Now it all depends on whether or not Esther can tank this fight. If Esther doesn't look like she's going to be able to tank it well enough, then, you know, that might change. Might have to stick Abigail in there or something like that. But seeing as lightning is the main weakness, I think we could probably take this team in there again and get a rank 1 clear. We'll just have to wait and see, of course. But this team does have all the killers covered. Chizuru provides the beast killers for the party. 2B provides the machine killers for the party. So does Esther, of course, but Esther's are only 120. 2Bs are 150. And then, of course, Sylvie provides the demon killers as well as the lightning amps and the lightning support. We've got Sakura providing the lightning imperil field as long as she's been fully crowned. And I get this one a lot. Like, people always ask me, oh, like, how is your Sakura able to do that field or whatnot? And so make sure you have crowned this ability, the Unleashed Evocation. This is what does the 50% lightning imperil field. And so you got to put at least 1 crown in it to make sure it's an enemy side only field so that you can use it with Esther's field. But putting 4 crowns in it makes it the big imperil field. You might not need that since the main weakness is lightning, but the imperil field will at least get rid of the enemy's field, which is very, very important for this fight. And that's really all Sakura is doing here, is just providing that imperil field, which honestly might not be necessary on this team, since Esther can use her LB field to get rid of it. But it's nice to have that one in there. And, you know, of all the units that might need to be swapped out, Sakura could probably be the easiest one to lift out, since lightning will be the main weakness for this fight. And then obviously the Nier girls are fantastic when they're together because they buff each other, and it just, yeah. And that's really the only way I was able to do a no leader skills clear on the last one, was because of those buffs that they provide for each other. That just makes 2B, really it just makes 2B insanely strong. And so that's what I'm relying on there for that one. All right. Now let's just talk about some general units. I'll start with magic tanks. Okay. So in case the fight requires more magic tanking than physical tanking, these are some of the magic tanks you might want to consider for the fight. So obviously Abigail, she is fantastic. She's just like the best all-around magic tank that we have, and she provides lots of fantastic mitigations. She does provide beast mitigations. That's the only one that matches up with her mitigations on this one. Even though she does 4 races, the only one that matches up is beast, but she does have some on-demand skills for both physical mitigation and magic mitigation to beast, all right? And so that could be very, very helpful in just helping your team survive. All right. She also can do a little bit of fire support with some Imperils. She can do triple bolting strike with fire elements. So, that's always nice to keep in mind to do a little bit of support for the rest of your units if you choose to go fire element on this one. CoW is, of course, if the boss is doing a lot of magic damage, CoW is, of course, always a great magic tank for these fights. He does have beast mitigations in his kit, so that's definitely a plus for bringing CoW. CoW can also potentially omni tank as long as the physical damage isn't too rough. He's not very good as an omni tank if there's a lot of physical damage. He's definitely better at the magic tanking side, but yeah, we'll just have to see what the boss does. Maeve is great because she can switch back and forth. And Maeve also has beast. She has beast mitigations to herself, not to the party. Keep that in mind. But she does have beast mitigations to herself, and she has beast killer in her kit in Clash of Wills. I think you have to have 150% morale to activate that one, but she does have beast killers in her kit, and she's got a lot of great support stuff in general. I'm going to see if battle is won. You're a natural, so this one does the beast killer. Yep, for the party. And it also does beast mitigations. That's really great. I actually had forgotten that. So it does 50% physical and magic mitigation to the party for beast. So that's nice. All right, that's really, really great. And she can, she's obviously a magic tank in one form, physical in the other. Just keep in mind, if she dies, she revives in her physical tanking form. Sometimes that can be a problem, right? Snow is still always a great option as a magic tank. He's just, if you've put the crowns into him with his upgrades and you've got him to EX3, he is actually insanely bulky. He can also be your dark support unit because he can imbue the party to dark. And I think he's got some mitigations to... No, it's not this one. Which one is it? Yeah, he has 50% physical and magic mitigations to machines for the party. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Those mitigations could be very, very important. But he's really bulky because he can maintain 90% general mitigation on himself. Really makes him very, very bulky. And so he is still a great magic tank option there. He can also do some physical tanking just like Maeve can. He could also be a great physical tank, so keep that in mind. Ashe is still a really great magic tank. Also a great fire support unit because she has in Firaga, I think it's in this form. Yeah, in Firaga. If you have her EX3, she gets in Firaja, which does the 45% amp instead of 35%. So she could be a really great option here. She also provides 85% machine mitigation. Now it's only magic mitigation to all allies, but still 85% magic mitigation. That'll at least make her insanely bulky against the boss. Okay. And then in her Brave Shift form, she of course has some killers on her LB, as well as a nice full buff with 250% LB damage, 150% killers, both magic and physical, to machine, which is nice. And she has a single target 250% machine killer buff to a single ally. All right, similar to like Sylvie's Demon Killer, for example. Okay, so yeah, that's one reason why you might want to keep your eye on Neovision Ashe, because she could be very, very useful in this fight. And then, of course, we've got Cecil. Cecil is always just a fantastic magic tank in general. He can put up an ally side LB field for you at the start of the battle. And then as a tank, he provides some 80% machine mitigations for the party. And of course, it's magic mitigation, so it's really more for himself unless the boss is doing uncoverable magic damage. But yeah, so, Cecil, fantastic tank. He's got a lot of really nice support skills in his kit too. All right, as for physical tanks, all right, this is going to look pretty similar to last month's, but Esther is, of course, really, really great because she has the physical mitigations in her kit with her Boundless Stasis ability, which does 75% to Demon and Machine. So that's going to be huge if the boss is doing a lot of physical attacks and you need that physical tank. That's going to be really, really great at reducing the incoming damage for Esther. And then if you have somebody that can mitigate Beast, externally, she's going to be really, really thick. All right. She also can buff Demon and Machine Killer for the party at 120%. It's not the greatest. You'd like it to be 150, but still, 120 for 4 races, that's pretty nice. And it does a 50% accuracy boost. So if this boss only does a 50% accuracy reduction, boom, Esther covers that for you. Too easy. All right. I have a feeling it's probably going to be more like a 100% accuracy reduction, but I mean, maybe it's only 50, and then Esther can cover that for you. Be really, really great. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. Runda is, of course, just, on a budget, he's still a fantastic, absolutely fantastic tank because of the high general mitigation, physical mitigation that he can provide with basically full uptime. So he's really, really great for that. And don't forget, he does have a leader skill that buffs defense and spirit for himself and apparently for fire category units. Apparently he's a fire category unit. But yeah, and so that makes him just a little extra bulky if you don't have any other leader skills on your party. All right. Maeve is, of course, a great option as a physical tank, as I already described. So is Snow. All right, for the same reasons I just described in the magic tank category. Bahimi, he's old, but he might actually be able to do all right as a physical tank. Maybe not in a rank 1 clear, but maybe in like just trying to clear it with no mods. He does have demon mitigations. Where is it? Which one is it? Yep, there it is. Yeah, for demon, it's only physical. Okay, 55% physical mitigation to demons. So, if he's doing the majority of the physical tanking, that will just help make him a little extra bulky against a boss that has the demon race. That last one you see there, Aphmau. So, not that Aphmau is a particularly good physical tank. She got some silver crowns. They didn't really help the tanking side of things, but for like a level 99 clear with no mods, she might still be all right. She does have 50% machine mitigations in her kit for all allies, and that's both physical and magic. So if you're looking for some racial mitigations that match the boss, here's 50% physical and magic, and I believe that's full uptime. Yeah, 4 turns, so that's full uptime. It basically does a nice spread of 50% general, 50% physical, 30% magic, and then the racial mitigations to machines. So, in a pinch, that can't be overlooked. As far as actual tanking, I don't know if Aphmau would really be able to handle it probably not in a rank 1 clear. But another thing I just wanted to remind you guys, if you did the silver crowns for Aphmau, something that is easily overlooked and forgotten is that in her normal form, she got an 88% full break with 145% imperils to the first 6 elements, right? And so if you're going fire or lightning, this could be really, really great. And it does a perfect dispel on the enemy. Not that we know for sure if that's going to be important, but it's really, really cool. It's also really, really great for just like first turn kill strategies or quick clears. So don't overlook this. If you have these crowns, from back when, and you crowned up your Aphmau, don't forget about Aphmau for this fight, because Aphmau could be interesting. Again, I don't think Aphmau is going to be seen in any rank 1 clears, but maybe just for help, just for trying to clear out the boss. Aphmau could be an interesting unit that you might want to consider bringing. Now, as for support units, these are units that just bring some sort of support aspect to the fight that could be useful. All right. Roberta, unfortunately, none of Roberta's killers match this fight, but she is still an all-around fantastic fire support unit. So if you're going fire element, Roberta might still be really, really great. You know, she's still got so many cool support things going on in her kit. You know, like her LB, which does a 350% full buff with 300% LB damage buff that's non-dispellable for 5 turns. I mean, it's like insane. She's a really, really great support unit. And she does have, all right, so obviously none of the killers match up. She does have the Inferno Breath, which it's like a great fire support, like all-in-one ability here, okay? And so that's really nice. She can dish out a little bit of damage if you need to. She can remove your imperils. So we know the boss is going to imperil us to, you know, the elements that it wants to do. She can get rid of those for you. She can also do that with this ability, which also amps fire and lightning for you. So if you have like a lightning imbue, like for example, Sakura, you know, her Sakura's on-demand lightning imbue only does a 30% amp. This one can do, you know, bump that up to 45 for you. And then in her Brave Shift form, she does have physical accuracy boost for the party. That's Dragoon's Aim, which does 50% accuracy boost to all allies for 5 turns. So again, if the boss only does a 50% accuracy reduction, this could be all you need to get you taken care of there. And then her Brave Shift LB also does a perfect dispel on the boss. So if we need that at any point, that's great. It also does a perfect dispel on the party, meaning it gets rid of all of our imperils, enfeeblements, all that stuff, and leaves all of our buffs. So Roberta is still a really great all-around support unit, even if her killers aren't matching up in this particular fight. Next we have Melissa. Of course, Melissa is just fantastic in general. You know, if you have her, she's always great to bring on a team. She's got totally insane morale fill in her kit. Only one of her killers matches up this time, but she does have a 250 single target beast killer buff with 150% to the party for 5 turns. So keep that in mind, all right? That could be very, very useful. If you are going on a dart team, obviously Melissa should be on there because she's got the ramping amp, all right, the 100% amp, which you can use twice per battle. She can also add dark element to the boss. So, you know, that way you can bring a magic tank, use this to imbue the boss with dark and make your team basically invulnerable for up to 4 turns. She does have some beast mitigations in her kit. Parasol Shield does 55% physical and magic beast mitigation for the party. Okay, so that could also be really useful. Now, of course, if you're using Abigail kind of does a step better than that with her 60% beast mitigation for the party on her SLB, but you know, it is what it is. But if you are going with a physical tank and you want your party to withstand the magic damage, of course, her LB is really great. Sorry, I mean her SLB is great because it does 80% general with, oh, I thought it did 80% magic mitigation. It's just 80% general. That's okay. 80% general, still very, very good. All right, so yeah, if you're going dark, Melissa is definitely a great support unit to bring in. Probably one of the best support units for this fight, especially for the killers, is the new Dark Lineage Fina, because she actually has killers to all 3 races. She has Machine Killer, so she's got Beast Repelling Shot, which does 160 to Beast for the party. She's got Machine Killer, all right, which is 160 to Machine, and Demon Killer. Now, the thing to remember is that these are 3-turn buffs on a 5-turn cooldown, so they do not have full uptime. But, you know, for your burst, you want to go ahead and prep with all 3 of these killers. Boom, she's got them, okay? And she does have a 250 buff, or a 250 killer for a single ally to Beast and to Demon. So, she could be really, really great for that reason. She also has this Purifying Rain, which is a nice perfect dispel for your party. She does do the 250 LB damage boost with the 300% full buff to everyone on the party, which is kind of nice. And she's got, you know, good general fire support with Infiraga. Okay. And so she could be a pretty decent fire support unit for your party. Her damage is abysmal, especially in Clash of Wills, but as a general support with killers and whatnot, she could be very, very useful for this fight. Ling, as I already mentioned, is great for a lot of reasons. She's got a lot of really cool tools in her toolkit just in general, like morale fill, breaks, mirage for the party. She does have some mitigations for the party with 50% general, magic, and physical. Not really enough for like a rank 1 clear probably, but that's good enough to probably get you through just a standard clear. And then she does have killers to beast, 150 to the party, that also comes with mitigations to beast at 25%. And machine, again, 150 killer with 25% racial mitigations. Just remember those use her LB gauge, so you got to make sure she's filling up her LB gauge. But yeah, Ling is still, even though she's like, she's from back on day 1, the first day of, first Clash of Wills out there, and she is still a really great all-around support unit. Bulwark is really here. I mean, he's got a lot of fun, kind of like Ling. He's got a lot of fun things in his kit. He's got some morale fill. He's got some buffs. He does have some mitigations and some mirage in his kit. He's got the really kind of niche ability, Jaunty Jubilee, which I've definitely used a few times just to keep your tank alive, because it does an insane, 85% physical and magic damage reduction to a single target. You put that on their tank. For like if you're expecting big damage, and that can be a lifesaver, right? He's also really great just for like filling up the party, with his electric ensemble ability that does 100% max HP MP fill. Could be good if you plan on bringing your Genesis to the fight, or any Meteor user for that matter. And he does have Demon Killer. Which one is it? Yeah, Bergamot's Ballad. He does have Demon Killer, although in Clash of Wills you will probably be using, I think it's this one, Sacred Symphony. Yeah, this one does the 200% Demon Killer buff to all allies with 30% racial mitigation. That's the one you're going to use in Clash of Wills. All right. He can also be your dark support if you want to go dark element. But it's not his favorite element. He would prefer wind, but if you're in a pinch, looking for a little bit of unit management there, then he can be your dark support unit if you really need him to. All right. And then Leftia. Yeah, we've got Leftia here. Leftia is good if you're going with a fire team, mostly because she does have some machine killers in her kit. If you have her EX3, I think she gets a 160 machine killer. Yeah, she gets a 160 machine killer to the party. Otherwise, you'll use this one, which does 100%. Okay, and does some full buffs. She can be a good unit for for keeping your party healed up, doing some buffs. I think her SLB does a 45% fire amp with 300% LB damage boost. That could be very, 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 very nice to have. And if you equip her, I don't have it equipped right now, I can't remember what it's called, but if you equip her with the special free item that you get from the Season 4 story, then she can do a single target 100% fire amp to a single target. So that could also be really, really useful. Maybe not in like a rank 1 clear, but keep in mind, if you're just trying to clear this boss, Leftia could be a good choice for you there. All right, Breakers and Imperilers. So again, this will look pretty similar to last time. So Sakura is here mostly for her Imperil field, and if you have the Dark Lineage Sakura, she does basically the same thing, but you don't have to put crowns in her. All right. But I don't know. I don't think that was a particularly popular banner, so people are probably more likely to have the old Sakura and some crowns lying around. But if not, if you grab the Dark Lineage Sakura, great. So that's really what she's doing here. In here is just bringing that Imperil field. She also does general lightning support and whatnot. We have Axstar, and as I showed you earlier, Axstar does. He does the Dark Imperil, so if you're doing a Dark team, You know, he could be good to have because he does a strong Dark Imperil with breaks and the Beast Killers. All right, and on his SLB, it's a 145 Dark Imperil, 160% Beast Killer buff to the party. So if you have him EX3, and he's kind of an old unit, so maybe you do. If you have him EX3, that Beast Killer buff is up full time. All right, so that's really what he's doing here. Edge is, of course, here because he's the best Lightning Imperil unit that I have. If you picked up Angeal from the recent Crisis Core banner, Angeal is objectively a better Lightning Breaker and Imperil unit because Edge still has not gotten his crowns. He is supposed to get crowns that give him a 160% Lightning Imperil with an 89% defense break on it. They still have not given that to us, and it's pretty frustrating because they are like a year late at this point. They really need to give us Edge's crowns. I'm getting pretty frustrated by the fact that Gumi has skipped these for so long, because he would be quite useful in this. Unfortunately, you know, he's still good, I think, for if you have him, if you're just trying to clear up to level 99 because he does a strong Lightning Imperil. Unfortunately, the killer doesn't match up, but that's all right. His Brave Shift does a 145 Imperil. He does have an 88% break on a Grandis. Yeah. So this is the one that's supposed to get upgraded to do a 160% Lightning Imperil with an 89% defense break. Still waiting on that, Gumi. Still waiting on it. But he does have some good support. He's got Mirage Plus, which does a 2-stack Mirage to the party, and that's, you know, you can do that anytime. So, you know, that could be useful if you're bringing a Magic Tank and you need some Mirage for the party. So don't forget him completely, all right? But if you have Angeal, Angeal is strictly better. I just don't have Angeal personally. Golbez is still great as a Dark Breaker because he can do the 88% break with the 150% Dark Imperil. Of course, you have to have the Curse upgrade to his armor. So it starts at 130 with an 87% break, and then after a few turns, it does an 88% Defense and Spirit break with 150% Dark Imperil. So he could still be very useful on dark teams, especially if you have like Ibarra or Dioxys, because then Golbez will get the leader skill buff because he is a dark tagged unit. So if you have him on a team with Ibarra or Deoxys, he will actually be really great to have. Unfortunately, his killers aren't particularly good. I think he's got innately, he only has 200% to, I want to say, no, he doesn't even have 200% to Demon. Yikes. So yeah, his killers aren't particularly great for this fight, so it might be hard to gear him for the killers on it, but still, you can't beat the support with the breaks and the imperils there. Lena is here. If you put the crowns in her, she, of course, you've probably seen her in a lot of the Dark Visions clears for the current Dark Visions that's out there. She is fantastic as long as you put crowns in her. It requires 2 crowns in her normal form with this ability in her normal, which gives her Limit Burst, a 40% fire amp field for the party, and a 25% fire imperil field to the enemy, which means she will effectively erase the boss's field and put up this imperil field. Also boosts the party's resistance to fire by 50%, which is nice because the boss is going to do fire damage to the party. So it's nice to have that little extra bit of fire resistance buff. Okay, and then in her Brave Shift form, if you put 2 crowns into this ability, okay, that changes her Brave Shift LB to an 88% full break. All right, so she could actually serve as your breaker and your imperil and field unit. So she could pull double duty for you there, and that could be very useful for this upcoming Clash of Wills if you're going to go fire element. Last but not least, we have Reno, who is a free unit. You can pick him up in the you can actually pick him up in the Star Quartz shop under the time limited units, and so you can pick him up and then you can get his shards from the EX coin shop, and you can get him EX3 today, right now. If you missed all the events where they gave away a free Reno. I think they did it like 3 times. I have like 3, I have like 3 EX3 Renos at this point. But if you missed all of those, you can get him from the Star Quartz shop and get his shards from the EX coin shop. You'll just, unfortunately, then you'll have to use gold crowns to upgrade his Pyramid's Peak, because this is what he's really useful for the big breaks and the 140% lightning imperil. And then he can of course chain with Mirror of Equity units. He can chain with Bolting Strike units. And so that's what he's really useful here. And he's more of like a budget one, but he's very easy to get to EX3. And so if all you need is a strong breaker with a strong lightning imperil, he could be the difference between getting that 16 EX levels for your all mods clear. And so definitely keep him in mind for that reason. All right, now let's talk about some DPS units. All right, now of course keep in mind that this is me just showing you the units that I have in my inventory. I don't have all the units. Some units I'll go ahead and throw out there that I don't have that should be on this list would be like Ibarra or Deoxys. You could even bring Zac. If you picked up Zac, he would be really strong because this boss is weak to lightning. You would probably want to bring, well, yeah, no, because he brings his own leader skill. So you probably would want him with Cloud. You can see I have Cloud in there because I have Cloud. And Cloud is actually going to be very, very strong for this one, I think. But if you have Zac and Cloud, they could be very, very strong for you on this particular Clash of Wills. Since I don't have them, obviously I'm not going to feature those units here. But yeah, Zac, Ibarra, Deoxys, definitely some very strong units that should be at the top of this list. But as far as the units that I have, all right, here's what I'm putting forward. I'm not including units that I've already shown you, ahead of time necessarily, or that I may have already talked about. Like Chizuru could easily be put on this list, but I've already kind of gone over Chizuru quite a bit. Esther will of course be strong if you want to bring her solely as a DPS unit and not as a tank. She'll of course be very, very strong in here for obvious reasons because she matches up with all the killers, is great on a lightning team. But here's some units that I maybe haven't talked about or touched on. And so Cloud will be really, really good, mostly because he's very, very strong as a lightning unit, because he gets a, I think his total LB mod, if you have the lightning buff, so if you use elemental lightning, that does 70, and then you do nothing personal, that does 60, so that's 130. He starts at 300, gets the preemptive LB boost, so it's like a 560 times modifier on his LB. And if you use all those buffs, and he prefers lightning, of course, because he has the 150% lightning amp, so he will definitely be very, very strong and help you hit that damage cap on your burst turn. And then after that, you'll of course want to use his True Infinity's End, which in Clash of Wills gets a nice buff and makes it, I think, 3,000 or maybe like a 3,500 times modifier on a one-hit finisher. So it's definitely good for helping you finish the fight after your burst turn. So don't discount Cloud on this one. All right, he could be very, very strong for this Clash of Wills. Olive is, of course, always really, really great in most Clash of Wills. She'll like this one if you go on a fire team. You could still go lightning with her. You can go any element. She's non-elemental. But she's really nice because she does have her own killer buff to Beast and Machine on this one right here, Machine, Mammals, Machines. And so there you go. You've got 200% to both of those killers. Now it's only to herself. It also does come with some racial mitigations to those two. So if your party's taking some damage, she'll have a fair bit of mitigation against those races in this fight. All right. So that's why she's on this list. She's obviously, again, just a really strong unit. Of course, Flaring Ether Rain, shouldn't really need to say much about him. He's just extremely strong on a fire team. Of course, the Nier girls, they're always very strong. Just keep in mind, if you'll need either Dwayne or the upcoming Nora unit to give them a leader skill buff, because they currently they only get leader skill buffs from Clash of Wills leader skills. All right, and currently that's just Dwayne and the upcoming Nora. All right, so otherwise they're not going to be able to partake in any kind of leader skill. Not until we get a leader skill that buffs light element, because they're also light tagged. Okay, so it either has to be a CoW leader skill or a light leader skill. Of course, Genesis is going to be super strong, even though he's not a Clash of Wills unit, just due to the fact that if you have Dazzling Demoness, his one-hit finisher hits an incredibly stupid modifier and is still stronger than like any Clash of Wills unit out there. And so he definitely, if you have a Genesis and you want to go fire, he's a great option. You will want to bring a Flaring Ether Rain, though, to give him the leader skill. So if you have Flaring Ether Rain and Genesis together, they'll be very, very strong for this Clash of Wills. Some sort of backup damage dealers. So this is more of like the sort of budget side of things. Like, you know, if you don't have the strongest DPS units, or you know, you can't fill a team with the best damage dealers, and you're looking for some sort of secondary or tertiary damage dealers, here's a list of some that could be potentially useful in this fight. So Sisney is the free one that we got in the most recent Crisis Core event. And I put her on here because, you know, her LB isn't too shabby. Sorry, I mean her SLB. It's not too shabby. You see, like, it's on, what, 270 LB mod. But she does do a mod buff of, yeah, so there we go. So 80 times. So it becomes a 350 times modifier with a 300% mag store buff. And so it's not nothing. And for a free unit, you know, she could be helpful in getting you, you know, getting you a level 99 clear. So don't forget about her. She also does some Mirage for the party, which is really nice. She can do, I think she can do a bigger Fire Imperil than that somewhere. Oh yeah, where is it? Frontline Ruination? Yeah, so she can do a 140 Fire Imperil too. And Lightning, I didn't even notice that. So it can be Fire and Lightning. That's really great. And a little cherry on top, she can do a Machine Killer buff to the party, and that's on demand. It's only 130%, but you know, if that's all you got, that's all you got, right? And so she could be kind of useful for this fight as sort of a backup or a tertiary unit. And you know, you got her to EX3 for free. So again, if your struggle is hitting those EX levels, don't forget about Sisney. She could be useful in helping you get there. Tsukiko is definitely good as a sort of secondary or tertiary damage dealer in this fight, because she does have the Blazing Karmic Retribution, which, you know, hits a fairly decent modifier at full morale. She's not going to be your top, you know, top of the line DPS, but she also has so many other support skills in her kit. She's got so much going on, like she can remove imperils on demand. So there you go. You got on demand imperil removal, on demand break removal. She can buff all your status ailments. And yeah, and then of course she's got the Fire Imperil Field, which we all know about. So the 30% Fire Imperil Field, which will be good. She can do a bit of fire support by imbuing and amping your party. Also comes with 150% Fire Elemental Resistance buff, which we know the boss is going to do some fire damage. So again, that could be useful. So she could be good as sort of a secondary DPS. I put Sephiroth in here because the boss is weak to dark, and Sephiroth, if you were able to do his crowns and get his 150 amp, he will be quite strong. So his LB mod actually hits a fairly respectable level, and he gets the 150 dark amp. So he could actually be very, very helpful in getting you up towards that damage cap. And being an older unit, there's a better chance you have him at like EX2 or EX3. All right, but you did have to do those crown battles to get all those perks, so make sure you've done that before you take him in there. Lara Croft, still, if you have Flaring Ether Rain, she is a fire tagged unit and will get a leader skill buff with Flaring Ether Rain. Still potentially useful with her 90% defense break. That also comes with the Fire Imperil, gives herself a 60% fire amp. And she also does Beast Killer and Machine Killer. Unfortunately, she can't do both of them at the same time, so you kind of have to like pick one. All right, but yeah, she's got those in her kit. And again, if you have one of her laying around, you know, they did a couple of rerun banners on her, so there's a chance you might have her at EX3. And if you need that secondary, tertiary DPS that has, you know, those EX levels for you, don't forget about her. Oliveira could be sort of like a niche or a meme clear on this one because the new Nora unit is going to be, once again, doing an LB damage mod boost for the party. So if you have, you know, the new Nora unit, you've got Sylvie and you've got Melissa, you can potentially bump up Oliveira's normal form LB to something stupid like 1300 times modifier because he's got a 4-part LB, and anytime you do a mod boost, it's going to apply to each one of these parts. And so I think the last time I calced it, before Nora came along, he was able to hit a total 1,095 times modifier. And if we bring Nora, who does a 50 times mod boost at full morale, then it adds another 200 times. So yeah, he's hitting like a 1295 modifier on his LB. Now keep in mind, he's still, you know, he's not easy to build, and you really need him EX3 to hit, you know, a relevant mag stat. But if you have a good leader skill, you know, obviously like Flaring Ether Rain or Ibarra or Deoxys, because he is dark tagged, he could actually do some respectable damage in this fight. But he does need a lot of external support, so keep that in mind. And then, of course, we've got the free Reagan. He's just really great because he hits all the killers pretty easily. He's got a good spread of killers, very, very easy. Also chains with Flaring Ether Rain, so he works very, very well with Rain, and he gets that leader skill buff from Rain as well. All right, and so yeah, those are just sort of some backup DPS units. I'm sure there are lots of other DPS units you guys can think of. Feel free to fill up the comments below with your ideas, your team compositions. Would love to hear it. Would love this to be sort of a forum of ideas and you know, figuring out what's going to work best in this current Clash of Wills. But that's just what I wanted to put forward to you guys. Yeah, sorry it's a little bit late. I know maintenance is coming up in like an hour and a half, so might not be all that useful, but here it is. Thank you guys so much for following me. Can't wait to get into Clash of Wills tomorrow and play around with some of these teams and get some clears out to you guys. So stick around. Those are definitely coming up tomorrow, and I will see you on the other side.